All right, we are live once again. Good morning. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Morning Cowbell. We've got 8:21 a.m. start, March 28th, 2023. We have 3 days left in the month of March, and then we are officially moving on to April. As you can see, I probably need to get a haircut. The beard is going a little crazy now. I keep a short beard because if you missed my New Year's Eve extravaganza, I shaved it all off, and it grew back after a month. But it was only a small portion of it grew back, and I realized that I think the small portion of it is better than the entire big beard I used to have in my previous videos. If you just go to any video in 2022, so probably got to get the barber soon. Thank you all for being here, Jeremy, Johnny. Cameron Investing, of course. Good morning, Amit. It means the world to me that you do this morning. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. It really does mean the world that people are here. Like, I don't know what else to say. It literally means the world. It means everything. So thank you. Ramu, what's up? Dex, what's up? Everclear, what's up? Midwest, hello. All right. So I've got, two stories that I really want to talk about. We can probably get, today there's not like a crazy amount of stuff going on. So I think we'll do two stories and then we'll do some Q&A. Just any questions that you have in the chat, you can start putting them in right now. And we can probably just like do some topic around them. But there's two major stories that I wanted to talk about. That'll be like the majority of the show today. And then tomorrow we'll get back to like the initial four stories. Your late night podcast is very late for UK audience. I've been watching the next day. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. We start at 11 p.m. So that's what 11 p.m. in UK time is 11 p.m. East to UK is 4 a.m. Wednesday. Oh yeah. It's hard for you to catch that one. Yeah. Well, you can get it when it's afterwards. It's a fun one. Carlos couldn't join yesterday, but it's a podcast that I think has a lot of personality and it's fun and exciting. So hopefully you enjoy it later. I missed the explanation, but why did CodeStrap leave social media? So CodeStrap got a job at PwC, which is a PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's a international company, kind of like a consulting firm, but they do a lot of stuff, tax advisory, all this stuff. And he's deploying Palantir Foundry for clients within PwC's like consulting Palantir business. Like PwC helps other clients learn how to work with Foundry and things of that nature. So he's like a managing director for PwC now. So he's leaving social media and leaving kind of like publicly talking about Palantir because he's literally going to be working with Palantir clients pretty much every day. So it's super exciting for him, but he'll still be around, here and there. Just can't be as public anymore, making content every day. Good morning from Singapore, Jem. Thank you for being here. Good morning. Okay, let's get into the biggest news of, I think, the day and maybe even the week. Elon Musk now says only verified users will show up in Twitter's recommendation feed in a further shaking up of Twitter's feed. Now, what does that mean and why is it so important? Elon Musk said only verified accounts will appear in Twitter's For You recommendation feed. Musk claims the move is the only realistic way to address advanced AI bots swarming, taking over. So this is the tweet right here. He says this is the only realistic way to stop advanced AI bots. Voting in polls will also require verification for the same reason. And verification, for those that don't know, requires on average $7 to $8 a month. So in order to be verified on Twitter, what does it mean to be verified? It's that little blue check right there. You now have to pay $8 a month for Twitter Blue, which will allow you to now be verified. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think there's the good and there's the bad. Ultimately, I conclude that this is gooder. Obviously, that's not a word. This is more good than bad. I think the underlying principle to understand about why this is happening is, first of all, Twitter is not a profitable company. Twitter is not a company that monetizes correctly on advertising. Facebook, to give you a little bit of context, Meta did $32 billion in advertising revenue, not last year, last quarter. Twitter barely did $4 billion in revenue last year. So, and it's been declining because many advertisers have been going away because they don't like the checks and safety now that it's kind of like a free for all on Twitter and you can say whatever you want without being censored. So Twitter's advertising revenue not only is declining, and Elon Musk says some advertisers are coming back, so they might break even by Q2, which is a good thing, but it's not good. Like, there's just not relevant advertising. The function of Twitter when you're like scrolling through the feed is not meant to like click on ads. Whereas on Facebook and Instagram, ads almost seem as if they're content. And Twitter has never been able to figure out how do we make ads seem like content. I mean, think about it. The reason Facebook works and the reason like like people like advertise on the platform is because when people scroll, they end up just clicking the ad because the ads are compelling. And so the advertising product on Facebook and Instagram is pretty good. On YouTube, it's pretty good. Google search, obviously very good. Twitter, it sucks. And so one of the only ways, if you can't grow user bases, because these social platforms are only monetized if you have massive amounts of users that then you can then monetize via their attention for an advertising infrastructure, is make them pay for the platform. It's like Netflix, right? Netflix, people pay for the content, and therefore Netflix spends their money to buy more content. They just recently started introducing ads, but for the longest time, their business model has been you pay and you get access to the content. So if advertising is not the primary form of monetization for Twitter, and it's not a strong form of monetization for Twitter, the question then becomes, what is going to allow Twitter to monetize at scale? Twitter's user base also is just not at the level at Facebook or Instagram. Facebook has 2 billion DAUs. Facebook barely has about 240 million DAUs. And so when if it's literally about monetizing attention, there's just not that much attention on Twitter, even though, in some parts of the world, Twitter may seem like the biggest thing in the world. I literally have friends who never use Twitter. Like maybe they have an account, but they never go on it. And I'm over here on Twitter, like tweeting every day, interacting with people, building a community. It's fun. I enjoy it. I like it. I learn, I discover new stuff, I network with people. And then I have friends who are like, why are you on Twitter? Right. But that's not the same for Instagram. Everyone's on Instagram, right? That's not the same for TikTok. Everyone's on TikTok. So at that point, you've got a user base that is just not strong enough to justify an advertising revenue. Now, the other problem is, which is why he's asking people to pay. The other problem is that Twitter is noisy. It is the truly only public town square, in my opinion, that actually exists in the world, right? There are some competitors to Twitter, but none of them have the network effects that allow Twitter to be the behemoth that it is, right? The network effects are basically one user coming to the network adds residual value to another user coming to the network. So if I want to build a brand around Palantir and I start tweeting about Palantir and there's other people that care about Palantir on Twitter, that creates a community and that keeps you on the network, engaged within the network, and allows you to siphon attention from the network within your own little portion of using the network, which in this case is the account and the following that you've been able to build. So if the network effects are only really on Twitter when it comes to knowledge workers, these are journalists, these are academics, these are people that create content for a living in the form of articles and Substacks and things of this nature, it's very noisy. I think there's an estimated 6,000 tweets per second, which means if there's 6,000 tweets per second and it is very noisy and it's competitive to try to get attention, Elon Musk knows if this is the only place where people can get attention at scale, if you're a knowledge worker, $8 a month, $7 a month is a measly amount of price to pay, right? If you have a Substack where you have a $10 subscription, you need one subscription to justify your $8 a month per month. If you have a YouTube channel, if you can get a video to get $100 in ad revenue, 8 times 12, 96, boom, you've paid for your Twitter Blue subscription because you were able to drive traffic from Twitter to your YouTube content and you were able to make $100 in ad revenue. So I think I don't want to say professional content creator, but even for a mediocre, average, basic person just trying to get started in content creation, the Twitter Blue subscription is justifiably worth it. And Elon knows that because the feed is so busy, the feed is so messy, people will pay that $8 a month to get into the feed. Remember, the verification check allowing access to the For You feed. What is the For You feed? The For You feed is discovery. If you're not in the For You feed, you are not getting discovered by new people. It doesn't mean you won't necessarily get new followers. It just means that the ability for you to exacerbate your brand or really accentuate the messages that you have and propagandize your ideas out into the world, it needs to be pushed through an algorithm. I mean, this is the whole nature of YouTube, right? The only reason 86 people are here that I'm so thankful for that you're here, you're spending your morning with me, know about me is because eventually you were scrolling a platform, either Twitter or YouTube, and I popped up, or you searched on that platform and I popped up. And if I did not pop up, you would never have discovered me because, Ramu, who's in the UK, I can't go to my local UK grocery store and hand out flyers to join my YouTube channel because that's just impossible because I'm not in the UK. So we need technological platforms that are now globalized and have the ability to algorithmically curate content that is based on the interests of the people that care about that content to connect people, to allow people like me that want to create content to establish the ability to have an audience. It doesn't mean I have to stop working hard. It just means that you need a little help from the platform to create the connection, especially if you don't have advertising dollars to get people's attention. If that's the case, and Twitter is the main advertising platform organically for people to find attention and get into that For You feed in order to get discovered, to drive traffic to their articles or their websites, etc., and Elon Musk knows this, then $8 a month is not that much to pay. Now, the problem with this, the main problem with this is that new people are not going to be as incentivized to create tweets. So, for example, if you started a YouTube channel today, right? And YouTube's like, hey, in order to get any level of discovery on YouTube, and by the way, YouTube is already, I believe, the most competitive platform on the planet. 500 hours of video uploaded a minute. That's from 2019. It's probably like more like to 700 hours of video uploaded a minute, not a day, a minute. 60 seconds goes by, 500 hours of new content is uploaded that YouTube's algorithms have to somehow figure out how to show to more people in the face of all the other content they already have on the platform, right? Like it is absolute, but I think the most opportunity is there because everyone goes there for video. They have 2.3 billion MAUs. But it's a very competitive platform, right? So if YouTube said, hey, to even have a chance of discovery, you have to pay $10 a month. That means already as a new creator, you're like, well, I was thinking of starting a YouTube channel and potentially becoming the next big YouTube star, but now I have to pay $120 a year just to even think that I have a chance to get started. And that doesn't even guarantee you're going to get subscribers. So I think for a new Twitter creator, if they realize, and they want to become a content creator, if they realize the barrier to entry is this like pile of cash, which if they don't pay, they have no shot, then it dilutes the experience for them to want to get started. Number two, if you're a brand new content creator and you're already verified and you're getting recommended in the feed, maybe the content's not going to be that good because you're brand new, which means the feed itself is not going to be that good. And I think algorithmically they can change that if they just really hone in on the algorithms to be able to curate the best content for the best people. But it again may lead to a dilution of the content in the feed from newer creators. So at the end of the day, I think this is net like good because it's going to make Twitter more profitable and it's going to make Twitter be a place that people actually have the ability to get distribution. I wish it was free, but with Twitter struggling from an advertising perspective, I'm also very logical. If you can't make money off ads, the only ways to incentivize people to pay for the platform, how do you incentivize payment? You need to get people to actually pay. Two other points on this. With the advancement of ChatGPT that I've been using profusely over the past week, I hope I used that word correctly in that sentence. I don't know if I did, so correct me if I'm wrong. ChatGPT is going to explode content. I've already seen massive amounts of people on Twitter basically just tweet like 10 times a day. And all of those tweets, it is very obvious they did not write those tweets. It is from ChatGPT, like, you know, a thread on the history of AI. It's like, bro, you didn't come up with that stuff like that, you know? So it's like, and that's not a bad thing. It just means there's so much more content entering the feed that it begs the question of how Elon is going to be able to get more people to get distribution on that feed with this excessive amount of content. So all that content and sort of the AI powering all that content is good for Elon if he could monetize that. It's good for Twitter if you could monetize that because the more content, the better, right? Every platform wants more content. But if you can't monetize that content because the ads suck, then the only way to kind of sift through all those massive amounts of content and not run up your server fees up to the wazoo is to get people to subsidize it somehow in the form of paying for it. And if paying for it leads to more distribution and discovery, then that's what will allow Twitter to eventually hopefully be profitable. Last thing I'll say on this is Elon Musk just offered employees equity at a $20 billion valuation, which is a more than 50% haircut on the $44 billion he paid for Twitter. He says there's a path to the company being a $250 billion company in the next 5 years. I actually believe him when he says that, because if they can grow the user base to 1 billion people, right now it's at about 350 billion, and they can get, 10% of those people to pay this, which is still 100 million people paying every month is hard, but you got 100 million people paying $8 a month. That's 800 million in revenue every month. That's an additional 9.6 billion a year seems kind of crazy to imagine, but just like if Twitter can become, now I think Twitter would have to have a lot more features to be able to justify the verification. It can't just be discovery. But even if 5%, right, of 1 billion people pay, which is hard. I get it's hard, but if you could do that, maybe buying in an equity at 20 billion right now is not the worst idea. And even if it doesn't get to 250 billion, if it gets to 100 billion, then there's a 5x for employees right now. So let's see what Elon Musk does. Ultimately, I like the idea. I've already paid for a verification badge. I've had a verification for a long time, and we will see where it goes from there. But I think Twitter is in a tough position when it comes to monetization, and they've got to do something dramatic. And Elon Musk basically is, going for a Hail Mary saying, hey, you're literally not going to get your tweets to be able to show up in someone's feed if you don't pay for it. So it's time to pay up if you want to use Twitter. And I think the people that really care about using Twitter, which, it seems like a decent amount of them, will end up paying. All right, that was our first topic for the day. Hello, everyone in the chat. Adam, I see the town square analogy is ridiculous. It is the only place where you can say something and you can get immediate attention. I mean, I just don't know what other place you can actually say something and immediately get attention. But obviously it's not a real town square. You're on early. Good to see you. Having you on in the background while planning my day trade strategy. Awesome, Adam. Again, the morning stream will be at 9:20. This is the morning cowbell where I get to do like long form kind of talking before we get into the actual morning stream at 9:20, and we just analyze the market. Do you see SoFi hitting the PSU targets by 2026 for Noto? SoFi has to 5x from here. Yeah, if they keep up their member growth. I mean, we talked about in the SoFi Weekly many times. If Galileo revenue we actually had a really good podcast on Friday. I would recommend watching like the last, 45 minutes of it. We talked about all the different ways SoFi is expanding and some of the new announcements they made and some of the new upgrades to the banking parts of the business and the app. I think there's a lot of different ways they can easily 5x the business, which unlocks Noto's PSUs. But I'm pretty sold on the SoFi thesis. As long as growth keeps up the way it is, then it'll be okay. Futbucker, thank you for being here. Vincent, what's up, Amit? Are you bricks today? Of course, I am bricks. I am bricksed up today. We've got the bricks in the best. Someone actually said they look very real yesterday. So for those who are saying it looks fake, someone said, no, they actually look very real. And I agree. Imagine if Musk had just come out and said, I'm getting rid of anonymity on Twitter. How would that have gone down? This is what verification means, coming to an internet near you. Yeah, I mean, well, if you want to be anonymous but not get discovery, then it still works. It still works, Twitter. Like, you could just make a pseudonym. It's just you. So this is the thing, right? People on Twitter. So I made a tweet about this yesterday, and people on Twitter are like, we don't care about discovery, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, I get that you may use Twitter just for fun. And some people just use Twitter for fun. They don't really care, right? And they're not trying to build a brand, all that stuff. But a lot of people on Twitter are also trying to build a brand. And for those that are trying to build a brand, discovery is everything. And I don't think you fully understand this until you are in the process of trying to build something. Because to build something, you need some attention, some level of awareness. And if Palantir had 1 million followers versus 131,000 followers, I believe it would drive more business for Palantir. It's just that simple. There's 1 million more people that care about you. By the way, I had a weird dream that David Sachs listened to the Palantir Weekly podcast. It was the weirdest dream ever. I was like thanking him on Twitter. I was like, oh, thank you so much for listening. He tweeted the YouTube link. He's like, this is an awesome podcast. I was just like, wow, did he actually listen to our podcast? I don't know why that happened in my dream, but that happened in my dream. But nonetheless, right? More people that know about you, more levels of awareness you have. And I think at the end of the day, no one wants to be talking to 0 people, right? It's not fun to tweet and 0 people see it. And I was in that situation for a year. Back in 2021 when I was starting to get started. And man, it sucks, bro. It's tough. It's just like you literally feel like you're tweeting at the abyss, right? And there's just nothing coming back at you. And any human being, I don't care who you are, that doesn't feel good. That just does not feel good to be on a social platform with billions of users or hundreds of millions. You say something and literally no one will ever see it. And that's why Twitter is the hardest platform to grow on, because in order to grow, you can't just post like a photo of yourself. You have to actually say something intellectual and like meaningful for a community, or funny and target a different community. You have to like learn how to work within communities and build friendships, and you have to respond to people that tweet at you. You can't just like not respond to people. You have to try to build. There's so much stuff to do to build on Twitter that it's already so difficult. And so the idea that discovery doesn't matter is absurd to me, because a lot of people actually care about it. So I think it's an important thing out of that. Amit, you have to buy one stock out of these 3. Which will perform better in 3-year time? Tesla, Amazon, Google. I think absolutely it's Tesla. Absolutely. And Google, I'm already being very skeptical about, because I'm using ChatGPT every day. Not saying Google's not a good play. I'm just like, I'm not using it as much as I'm using ChatGPT. And I'm just like, this is weird. And Bard doesn't seem like it makes that much sense. I mean, Bard is kind of trash, and we'll see the next versions of it. But by then, I don't know if ChatGPT is going to be on a different level, given they have GPT-4 already out. Amazon, I think, is a great play as well. But I think Tesla. I mean, what other company is growing 30, 40% year over year and actually building innovative products that are quite literally changing the world? Like, it's not Google. It's not Amazon. I would say Microsoft's doing more than Google or Amazon in that regard. Yes, I'm in that situation now with my content. So I was just about to respond to this, and then we got this guy who joined the morning stream. Vitaly, the guy on YouTube, says I love how you joined right when I said something about Google, or you joined and you didn't comment until I said something about Google. Day Sweet Dark, yes, I'm in this situation now with my content. Put your Twitter in the description. Day Sweet Kiwi Dark. If you have a Twitter, I will follow you right now. So put it in the description. People can check you out. But again, it is very difficult to get discovered, and I think that is the problem. The guy on YouTube says he's not using Google. Okay, look, at the end of the day, I think YouTube is a phenomenal platform, phenomenal business. I literally joined now. Yeah, you joined right when I started talking. YouTube does $30 billion in ad revenue a year, and they pay out about 17, $18 billion of that to creators. Something like that, right? So it's 10% of the business for Google. It's like it's 8. Yeah, it's 10%. It's like 8 to 9. It's about 10% of Google's overall pie. So I think, YouTube is phenomenal, but at the end of the day, as big as it is for us, it's not Google's main cash cow, right? It's just 10% of their business. Their main cash cow is the search business, which I agree is not going away anywhere, at least not anytime soon, at least not within the next 1 to 2 years. I don't think the 93% of search engine market share they have is not going away, especially because Bing sucks and I'm not really using Bing. I tried using Bing. I was like, this sucks. It's just, sometimes, you think about it and you're like, well, I could have been asking Google this and I'm not asking it this. Now, that's my question. Does that marginal decline of me not asking Google this question because I'm asking ChatGPT this question result in some level of depreciation when it comes to the overall market share they have? I don't know the answer to that question. It's just, I'm starting to feel a little bit more skeptical every day as I'm not using it as much. But obviously YouTube is huge. Google's still huge. It's not going away anywhere. I literally joined when you began shitting on and I'm not shitting on Google. I'm just like, I'm not using, what pissed me off yesterday is Google Sheets. I don't know if anyone has multiple Google Sheets. I pressed go to Sheets. I want to show you guys the problem I had yesterday. Google Sheets. I want to show you guys how bad the situation was. Okay. Let me look. So if I present my screen, I just need people to sympathize with me for a second, right? So this is Google Sheets, right? You click on, you see how this says sign in? You click this. Okay, so now it went to sheet. These are all my sheets, right? Before, it would just take me to, if I say go to sheets, it would take me to this, right? And I don't want to do that. I want to go into the other part. And it just like, it never showed it to me. And I was just so annoyed yesterday. I was like, just show me the actual sheets. And that's probably why I was going off on Google yesterday. The answer is marginal in the short run, but greater in the long run. And I think that is the question. That is the question. Is it actually greater in the long run? Because we don't know. And if it is, then that'll be an issue. If not, then we will see. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next topic. Here we go. Next topic for the day. Alibaba. This is some news that dropped this morning. Alibaba has said that they are splitting into 6 units and exploring IPOs on each of those 6 different units. Shares are up 9% in the pre-market because of this. So Alibaba said Tuesday it will split its company into 6 business groups, each with the ability to raise outside funding and go public. It is the most significant reorganization in the Chinese e-commerce giant's history. Alibaba said in a statement that the move is designed to unlock shareholder value and foster market competitiveness, and their shares popped more than 9% in the pre-market trade in the US. Each business will have their own CEO and board of directors. The move comes after a tough couple of years of Alibaba, which has faced slowing economic growth. Not only has its share price really, been wiped out from 320, I think, in 2020, now down to 84, but obviously they've dealt with a lot of other issues in the context of their CEO's ability to maintain, let's say, visibility for the company. We'll talk about that in a second. So here are the 6 different groups that they'll go. Cloud intelligence makes sense. Alibaba's cloud business is huge. Taobao Commerce Group. This will cover the company's online shopping platforms, including Taobao and Taobao. I've heard of these before. I don't know how to pronounce these names, but I have heard of these as e-commerce plays. Local service groups. Yu Yongfu will be the CEO, and the business will cover Alibaba's food delivery service. Canal Smart Logistics. Wan Lin will continue as CEO of this business. Global Digital Commerce Group and Digital Media and Entertainment. Alibaba does have a pretty big streaming business in China. So these are the 6 different services that they will offer. Now, around $600 billion of value has been wiped out since Alibaba's share price peaked in October 2020. Since then, the Chinese government has cracked down on private technology businesses, including a slew of regulations and increasing scrutiny. The Ant Group that was supposed to go public, this was supposed to be like a $34 billion IPO. Is going to be one of the biggest IPOs ever. It was a fintech. It was an affiliate from Alibaba. They had to cancel in November 2020. And in 2021, Alibaba was fined $2.6 billion as a part of an antitrust probe. $2.6 billion is a lot of money to be fined when it comes to Alibaba, or just when it comes to a company, right? Not that many companies have $2.6 billion lying around in cash. Now, what does this mean overall for the company? First of all, a couple things. I think this is actually a good thing, splitting up the company into 6 different directions. It seems like the regime that Alibaba had over the past 2 decades was successful until October 2020. Now, what happened in 2020? We had this thing called a pandemic. And as we had a pandemic, it really forced China in particular to think about how they want to not only get the pandemic under control, but control their citizens that, don't want to be under lockdown. So there was a lot of like turmoil going on within the country, not to mention all of the geopolitical stuff and backlash they were facing because a lot of countries were like, hey, China, how could you let this virus enter and spread across the world? As a result of that, I think Alibaba got caught up in some bad timing. Jack Ma ended up saying some things. I don't remember exactly what his comments were. I don't know if they had to deal with the COVID stuff or the pandemic stuff, but I do know there was a critique of how the Chinese government was operating. And then the guy disappears for literally a month or a month and a half. And I remember watching this news break. I was 22 years old. I just graduated business school. And I'm looking, I was like, I never could you imagine if Jeff Bezos said something about the Biden administration and disappeared, or the Trump administration and disappeared? Like no one had heard of him, right? Or Tim Cook just disappeared. Like it would be unfathomable in the United States of America that someone says something bad about the United States federal government, particularly a CEO, that's created billions of dollars of value for the country, and then disappears. And like the press can't get to him, the media can't get to him, his family can't get to him. And what is he? Is he locked up in a cage? And you've got Biden Secret Service saying, hey, you're never allowed to say that again, and you're going to stay here until you learn your lesson, or else we're going to kill you. What's going on, right? And that's basically what happened to Jack Ma. And I think as soon as that happened, it was a fundamental, here the tide is shifting moment. Why is the tide shifting? The tide is shifting because now Americans really finally got their first piece of evidence, and not just Americans, but global institutional investors across the world, that China is going to be a hard place to invest in. And Alibaba in particular, which is the darling crown of China, if their CEO or their executive chairman, Jack Ma, can basically be beheaded and go away for some time. Now it's good he didn't die, because if they killed him, that would have set a really bad precedent for China. But they didn't kill him. They just probably put him in some solitary confinement for a long time. If that can happen, I think it opened up the eyes to a lot of investors that, look, there's no way we can invest in China. There's no way that the Chinese government is actually going to be able to allow these companies to operate as independent entities. And I think over the past 2 years, we've seen the share price of Alibaba collapse, not only because of macro problems, but really because of the lack of interest and lack of trust that investors have within Chinese companies. If that's the case, breaking up into 6 different divisions and kind of having your own CEOs, your own practices, your own this, your own that, and giving investors more diversity in terms of choosing what they can invest in. I mean, Alibaba Media Group is going to be a totally different business from Alibaba Cloud Group. And would I love to invest in both at the same time and just Alibaba? Yes. But given what has happened over the past 2 years, maybe it's better that I can just invest in cloud computing. I probably will not be investing in any of them because the China risk is a little bit too high. And until that changes, it's going to be hard to justify it. But, Munger said Alibaba was his greatest mistake ever. And he has been very supportive of the CCP from a governmental perspective because he thinks, that it's totally fine. So I think we've seen over the past couple of years that if we can't trust the Chinese government, if some of the biggest, most famous investors are admitting that it was one of their biggest mistakes, then maybe a splitting of the company into 6 different businesses will help business or will allow the diversity of business to increase. But I can't guarantee it. And I don't think anyone can guarantee that these businesses will get institutional global interest if China still has an overarching dictatorial approach to how they ultimately govern those businesses. And this is the entire reason why TikTok is being questioned, because if the TikTok CEO can't say that he is explicitly, not in control of the CCP, well, then, America's going to have a hard time allowing him to actually stay in the United States and continue to, operate. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What you think about Alibaba? Are you an Alibaba shareholder? I have a lot of friends who were Alibaba shareholders, and then they ultimately sold out of it after seeing everything that's happened with China. I ended up never buying into it. I did buy NEO. So I bought NEO at $3 and I sold it at $6, and then it ran up to $60. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know my story about unfortunately missing out on the NEO run in 2020. But NEO was one of the first companies I bought. So one of the first companies I bought was a Chinese company, primarily because I looked it up. It was $3. I was in class. It was 2020 January. I opened up Robinhood on my computer. I was in some business management class. The professor was saying something about business management that I was like, all right, well, he's talking about business management. I'm trying to make some money investing in businesses. It's like when I was trying to get into investing, and I see NEO and I'm like, Chinese electric car company, $3. Let me buy a couple $1,000. It's just like this. That sounds cool. I think I've changed since that day. I've become a little bit smarter, not that much smarter, but a little bit smarter. But it's like it was like, oh, it's a Chinese EV car company. Chinese meant nothing to me. I was like, it's in China. Okay. A lot of companies are in China. China's cool. And then you learn, wait a second, the way businesses are governed and structured in China are fundamentally different from American businesses and like the freedoms we have. And so over the years, you end up learning some of those issues. Thankfully, I got out of that trade with no losses, but it's tough to be an investor in China. So we will ultimately see what happens for Alibaba. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. Okay. And if you were a Neo holder, you'd be basically break even. Yeah. You know what's the sad thing, guys? My mom and my sister, they were so convinced on Neo, they bought it at $50. And yeah, that's when the decline happened. This is 2021. They were like, no, Neo's the next Tesla. And I'm trying to tell them, I'm like, no, Neo's not the next. I was like, don't buy Neo. And they were like, no, we're buying Neo. And now my mom and my sister are bag holding Neo. And I'm like, you should just sell at this point. Like, just take the L and like, just put the money somewhere else. And they're like, nope, I'm not taking the L. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, all right. But yeah, it's tough with the Chinese companies. Now, Neo declined not only because it was in China, but obviously the macro kind of messed it up. But I don't know if Neo ever gets back to $50-$60, man. Neo's in a little bit of a tough situation to get there. Adam, thank you for the comment. Man, if I have kids, I'm going to put them in debate. I could listen to you talk forever, man. Now don't get a big head buying Gucci belts as you get richer. Well, I did say on late night stock talks one day that I will never fly first class. And it's out of principle. I mean that. I actually mean that. I will never, if I make it somehow in life to the point where I can afford first class, I will never fly first class. I could be a billionaire. I will literally sit in 34F at the back of the plane in the middle. All right, not the middle. I need the window seat. At least give me the window seat just to prove to myself that I haven't changed. I'm getting to the point where I've told myself, if it wasn't for the environment, if I end up becoming rich or anything in life, I will still drive the same Honda Civic that I bought in 2019. The only reason I would upgrade this car is to buy a Tesla because, I want to help the environment. But other than that, I would I want to drive this Honda for the rest of my life because I don't want cars to be something important in my life where I feel like I need to spend, thousands of dollars on a car because it's just a car at the end of the day. So yeah, no Gucci belts ever. Is this 8 a.m. every day? Damn it, I can't get into group. Yes, 8 a.m. every day. And then we have 9:20 with the morning live stream every single day. Okay, you're crazy, bro. It is the window seat now. It'll be something new as you get. No, I'm serious, and time will tell. But I'm not doing first class. I'm not doing it. I really believe to myself, I'm never buying a Rolex. And I get, a Rolex is an investment. I get it. A Rolex is you get it's $100,000 watch. It's an investment. I personally just can't see myself wearing that much money. Like I feel like I would lose the intrinsic nature of who I am. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a regular guy that likes talking, likes storytelling. That's it. And so I never want to be materialistic. Like I'm not materialistic at all, bro. Like it took me like 3 months to get this mouse that has made my life easier, right? Like I'm really not materialistic. I've had the same phone for 2 years. Like I'm not materialistic at all. I don't like being materialistic at all. No, you won't. You'll fly private. Oh my gosh. Once you travel first class, you will never fly economy again. That's spoken by a true rich person. Bro, Rolexes aren't 100K. Yeah, I know I'm exaggerating. It's like, 40, 50K, sometimes 12K as well. Love that not flying first class. And this is the other thing, Adam. I like the chance of a good convo with a random stranger. Yep. I like the good chance of a random stranger. Where did you get a couple $1,000s to invest in Neo while you were still in school? This is actually a good question. So we'll end on this, guys. There's not too many other breaking stories today, and we started a little late. So we'll end on this, and then I'll get ready for the morning stream. And then 9:20, we'll be back here and we'll analyze the market. So I actually worked my senior year in college. I had a job that I was working about 30 hours a week, 25 to 30 hours a week, where I traveled 120 miles a day, 60 miles up North Jersey, 60 miles back to Central Jersey. That's why I had to buy my car in 2019 so I could, actually travel back and forth. It's the same car I have. I have $5,000 left, and then that car is mine. And I worked at a debate club. So I taught debate to different people. And that job actually paid me pretty good for a senior in high school. Like I was getting pretty good for that. So as a result of that, I just started saving. That's how I actually paid for my room and board my senior year. I paid for my entire senior year tuition. I paid for food. Like I didn't have to ask my parents for money after sophomore year of college for any of my tuition and stuff. So it was a pretty good feeling to be able to pay for all that stuff. And I was pretty independent, paid my car payments, insurance, everything. Everything. Senior year was pretty much all me because I got that job. But I was saving about $1,000 a month from that job. And I was just like, all right, where do I put this money? And then I would go on Robinhood and I saw Neo and I was like, $2. Like, that means I can get 500 shares for 1,000. Yeah, I want to have 500 shares of a company. That's why I think stock splits are good, because it's like psychologically for those retail investors, they're like Tesla at 300 versus Tesla at 3,000 just feels better. Even though obviously it really doesn't matter long term. So that's when I started investing. And as an idiot, Neo went to $6 and I had a lot of shares and I was like, well, double my money. That's great. And then Neo, I see it go to 11. I'm like, oh, it's at 11. It's not. Then I see it goes to 50. I'm like, oh, it's $50. This is crazy, right? And it's like, it just went up. So if I had kept it from 3 to 60, it would have been a 20x in 6 months as my first investment, which is probably a good thing I didn't get that 20x. So then I probably would have got way too cocky and I probably would have been like, I can do this all the time. So I think the humbling was actually very good, but yeah, that didn't happen. So you live and you learn. The old Garden State Parkway. Yep, Futtbucker knows. The old Garden State Parkway, up and down that is 4x journey from Singapore. Yeah, Singapore. You know, Vincent, my cousin, my uncle just moved to Singapore. He sent me a picture of himself yesterday. Let me actually see if I can pull it up real quick. And it's a dope picture. He's in Singapore now. He lives there. Is this the picture? Yep. This is it. This is what he showed me. You probably recognize that, right? That's his thing. And then this is my uncle. You probably recognize that. That's so dope, right? Easier. All right, that's it for me. Thank you all for being here. I will see you guys in 20 minutes on the market stream. Hopefully you all are having a good morning. We got to open up the market. We're going to see what happens. Yesterday was relatively flat, nothing too crazy. Some stocks were down, some stocks were up. We are green in the pre-markets. Futures are up. S&P is up. NASDAQ is up. So we'll see if that continues. And we'll go from there. All right. Thank you all for joining. I will see you guys in 20 minutes. Bye-bye.